Game 3 final in the Bay, and it's Minnesota on the road taking the 2-1 advantage. Anthony Edwards needed it, got it, 36 points and a deck. CBS NBA insider Bill Ryder here with his reaction to this one. And Bill, this was not the instructional tape type stuff, not the prettiest brand of basketball at many moments, but we talked about it. Anthony Edwards had to show up the way he did in this game. What did you make of his performance?
Other than the 90s called and they want their basketball back, I mean, what is going on in these playoffs? You said it. This was critical for Anthony Edwards. Look, the reality is that the Warriors had an opportunity to win that game. They were up by a couple possessions with about 4 or 5 minutes left. And had they held on, this would have been one of the biggest squandered opportunities we've seen in the playoffs in a long time. Not only is there no Steph Curry, and that should be enough of a reason, Joe, the Warriors didn't make a single three-point shot in the first half. And so Julius Randle's been great. He's been great really this entire postseason. Credit to him. Anthony Edwards hadn't been. We talked pregame here on HQ about the fact he only made 15% of his threes over the last 3 games. That second half, almost 30 points in the second half, made 4 3-point shots, was incredibly efficient, hit from deep, attacked the rim, played great. The return of that guy, that version of Anthony Edwards, it's not just critical for this game, because you got to win this game and take advantage if you're Minnesota. I think it bodes really well, Joe, for just this guy getting back to the form that he needs to be at if this team's going to do what it can do. And that includes all the way up to and including a championship this year.
Yeah, complemented by a triple-double by Julius Randle. On the other side, Golden State needed playoff Jimmy to show up, and they got that. Still not enough in the absence of Steph. I'm taken back to 84-82 with 4:38 to play. Draymond Green takes his 6th and final foul. So much has been said about Draymond throughout the series and throughout his career, but the inability to control oneself seems to be the through line. How does his fouling out at that point in this game affect the outcome in your eyes?
I thought it was critical. Look, he brings the ball up. He helps run the offense. He's a calming force for that team. And there's the spacing is, the reality is without Steph Curry, things aren't going to operate as efficiently as they're supposed to. You're going to go from being one of the most effective offensive machines in the history of the sport to, well, Joe, at times the opposite. The spacing is problematic. They don't have the shooters out there outside of maybe Buddy Hield. They're relying on guys like Jonathan Kuminga, who's had more DNPs in important games this year. It's just a weird mix. And yes, playoff Jimmy is really important, but we've seen this from Minnesota. It's got to be multiple guys. It can't just be Julius Randle having great game after great game. Anthony Edwards has to be great too. With no Steph, that's usually going to mean Draymond Green. And in a close game like this, you need that calm. And I know that sounds ironic, but as much as he's out of control emotionally sometimes, he can often be very calm just in terms of helping the offense run, doing what he does defensively. I thought it was a ticky-tack is the wrong word. I'm not sure he deserved to foul out, other than the fact when all you do is protest all the time and complain and have flagrant fouls and have technicals, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm with you. I think his antics over the last few games and maybe his career caught up with him and his team at a critical moment in this game.
Yeah, we talk about umpires determining their strike zone early in a game.
That's it.
That was the strike zone tonight for this officiating crew. It was maybe on the more lenient side of where the foul is, but it was applied there for a 6th and final for Draymond Green, and that was the way that they applied it throughout the night. Usually by Game 4, Bill, we can pick up a trend or we can feel a flow of where a series is headed. What of what you've seen through 3 games tells you what to expect for the remainder of, or are we still kind of wondering game by game what this series is going to be?
We remain in the upside down NBA version. Little shout out to our friends at Netflix. This has been the most bizarre postseason that I've certainly covered in my career and that I can remember even as a fan predating that. And that applies to this series. And here's the thing about here's the reality for Golden State, Joe. And I suppose if you're the Warriors, you can take this in a positive way or a negative way. They don't need to. I mean, they need to. But the goal isn't to win both of these games in Golden State before this conclusion. It was to get one win. It's to go back to Minnesota at 2-2 and push back how long you can give some runway to Steph Curry to get healthy and to get right and not to force him to come back early, or if he's able to come back at all, not to come back with a 3-1 deficit. And so this is, if you're the Warriors, you gave away an opportunity to steal a game, and you would have stolen a game. As you and I are talking about, your offense just utterly stagnated the last 5 minutes, and Draymond going out as part of that. You also showcase that you can compete with these guys even without Steph. And playoff Jimmy's in there. He said the other day he knows he can go for 45, but doesn't always want to. Who cares what you want, my man? You just got to go out there and you got to do it because your team needs it. And so Kuminga had good minutes again. Buddy Hield had some moments. If Draymond can stay on the floor. So for the Warriors, I think the takeaway for them, because it's hard to know which way things are going to go, is you have what it takes to win in game 4, and you have to win. You have to create a situation where Steph either comes back at 2-2 or more hopefully you just push back the window a little bit so he's not rushing back.
Our friends in the desert have spoken a minus 820 price on the series for Minnesota following this loss in game 3 for the Golden State Warriors. You allude to it there a couple of times, Bill, and I just want to delve a little bit deeper on the timeline for Steph Curry. All the reporting that we're hearing is he's going to be reassessed prior to Game 5. That's on Wednesday. Game 4 is coming your way on Monday. How hardline is that reporting, or we're talking soft tissue, end of the season, we're going to reevaluate this thing on the fly? What's the latest you're hearing on Curry? Excuse me.
What I'm hearing is that they're going to do the reevaluation and that hope springs eternal, but healing does not necessarily in the body of a mid-30s, late 30s-year-old superstar. They obviously want him out there, but I have not heard anything that is short of pessimism, Joe. And the message I keep getting is the message I just keep reiterating here on TBS Sports HQ when I can remember how to talk for a living. It's going to be a minute, and they're not sure he's going to be ready. And they'd like to have the games and the times and the opportunity for him to heal up a little more. So that reevaluation on the day of the game, I think, is in part going to be an assessment on how desperate the series is and sort of where they are. They know they needed a win tonight, or they need a win now in game 4, because I don't think they think Steph's going to be ready, but they're hoping he will be.
Yeah, you hate to see your season end with your best on the bench, but you're going to have to find one in game 4 on Monday. Earlier in the night, it was all Celtics over the Knicks at MSG on Saturday, 115-93. Boston now trailing this series 2-1, but on the board, and this felt like a shift. After going 25 of 100 from 3 over the first 2 games, the Celtics turned the tide in game 3, finishing 50% from the field. Despite trailing in the series, Boston heavily favored to advance past the Knicks, sitting at minus 310 on FanDuel Sportsbook. Bill Ryder offering his thoughts here as well. Bill, I don't know if it's just me, but did it feel like the Knicks lost 3 games on Saturday? The tenor coming out of this one is tough.
It did. You know why it felt like that is I think everybody knows, and I think the Knicks know, that even though they're up 2-1, the odds are very much in Boston's favor. Remember, this is a Celtics team that took more three-point shots than any team per game, literally in the history of the NBA. They took 48 per game, and they're usually, Joe, pretty good at it. They could not buy a basket the first 2 games, 25% from 3. They were always going to regress to the mean. What's crazy is in the first 2 games, they were still up 20 points. The Knicks still had to pull off double miracles, and let's give them credit. They pulled them off to win those games. And so this 50% showing, this flurry of 3-point shots, this reminder that, hey, guess what? The Celtics don't just take a lot of threes. Typically, they make them. It means if Boston even gets back to the norm, let's say they make 38% of their threes going forward, everything about this series, despite the fact New York's up 2-1, tell us advantage Boston.
Bing bong could be bye-bye in the not-too-distant future, but still a 1-game lead here on the series. Monday, game 4 on the way. Bill Ryder, thank you as always. There's more Bill to be had, and what better time than right now? Bill Ryder and John Gonzalez take you beyond the arc, where the Celtics certainly found themselves on Saturday. Download, subscribe, and enjoy Beyond the Arc.